We care for people across Hull, East Yorkshire and North Yorkshire. From Willoughby to Whitby, Scarborough to Malton, and Beverley to Bridlington, our care reaches every corner of our community. We work together to provide expert care and support for everyone who needs us. Whether it's physical health, mental well-being, or specialist care, we're there at every stage.
Got so much in terms of opportunity here with Humber, in terms of the work. Come see for yourselves. It is just a wonderful area to live. It's a wonderful area to work from as well.
I love working with the teams. I love having patient contact. I love the learning all the time. So honestly, it varies absolutely every single day.
It's about, delivering high quality care to people, and you feel that when you go home that you've actually done a good job.
Our dedicated teams make sure essential services are always available when you need them. By living our Being Humber values, we create a culture of kindness, respect, and excellence.
I think here at Humber, they are very forward-thinking and the managers are very understanding. And if you have any problems, you can very much just get in touch with people, and we've always been supportive.
I still enjoy going to work every day. I really do feel like I make a difference. I don't think you'd regret coming to work for Humber. You'd find it really, really supportive. And I think the management look after the staff as much as what they look after the patients as well.
Just seeing the motivation and all the ideas coming from all the different people and from all different specialisms and backgrounds and professions. I'm really looking forward to getting started with it. And I think I'm really looking forward to being part of that team.
We don't just focus on today, we plan for the future. Through innovation, research and dedication, we're shaping tomorrow's healthcare. No matter the challenges, we stand together. We succeed because we are one community, one team, one trust. We are Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust.
Hi, everybody. I'm Caroline Flint. I'm the Trust Chair, and it's absolutely my delight to welcome you here today. To those of you here in person, but also all those people who are online as well. Thanks to my other board colleagues who are here today, the executive directors and non-executive directors. Obviously, we've got Michelle here, our chief exec, and you'll be hearing from her later. And a warm welcome to our governors as well. And I hope some of you have had the chance to learn a bit more about being a governor from their stall here today. Thank you to all our staff who've had these fantastic stalls, an array of our services and activities for you to get a little bit more information about and learn about today. So what are we going to do at our annual general meeting and annual members meeting? We're going to reflect on our achievements and challenges over the last year. It's gone extremely quickly, and there has been a mixture of both in some terms of some outstanding work, innovation and changes we've made and our staff have made and our patients have contributed to as well, to make sure we can constantly improve what we do. But it's also had its challenges as well, and I'm sure you'll hear more about that later. We also want to share with you how we're delivering our strategic themes. As chair of the board, you know, part of our role is to sort of be able to set that strategic vision for the organisation. And I'm very proud that here at Humber, that's not just something that 12 people on the board do. It's something that is rigorously developed through our contact with staff, our partners that we work with, our patients, our volunteers and others, to make sure that when we finally sign off that strategy, it's not got that depth of input into what we do and what we want to achieve. And part of what our work is at the moment is making sure that it's working, that the objectives we set are working, and that the vision is there, regardless of what changes may be happening outside of our control. We'll also be going to review our finances and performance this last year. Again, it's not been without its challenge, and Pete will say more about that. And we're looking ahead in the context of the NHS long-term plan. And some of you might have heard around the government's sort of approach on this, and it wants to challenge us with 3 shifts. And those 3 shifts are around hospital to community, around from treatment to prevention, and from analog to digital. And for us in our sector, the range of services we provide, both in terms of mental health in communities, but also the work we do with our partners, such as the unit at Hull Royal Emergency Department, our mental health team there, we feel we are playing our part and can do more to achieve along those lines the government have set out. So welcome. We like to start the event hearing from somebody who has got something really to share with us and offer, and hopefully spark us and inspire us in terms of moving forward in whatever capacity you are here today. So it's great pleasure to welcome Dean Windass to our event today. He's had a few selfies already, so many of you will know Dean as a Hull City legend, the man whose unforgettable strike at Wembley took the club to the Premier League. But today he's here with us for a different reason. Dean has spoken bravely and honestly about his own journey with mental health, about living with ADHD, and more recently about receiving a dementia diagnosis. By sharing those experiences so openly, he's helped raise awareness and remind us all how important it is to talk, to listen, and to support each other. We're really grateful, Dean, that you can be with us today and share your story and be part of our panel conversation. So please welcome Dean. And Dean, join me on the sofa. So welcome, Dean. We're really glad to have you with us today. Okay. And there's so much about your story and your journey through life that could probably take more than the 25 minutes we've got here today. But it's just great to have this opportunity to have some insight into that and what you're championing today in terms of your health, but also in terms of other people as well. So many people know about your career on the pitch and your successes there. But how would you describe yourself off the pitch?
I'm just a lad off Hessel Road, born on Hessel Road, moved to Gypsy Road when I was 2-year-old. Wanted to play for Hull City as a kid, but you know, obviously my dad's no longer with us now. But he always said to me, you know, one day you'll probably be famous. And I went, what's that mean? I didn't know what that meant. And he says, well, people treat you differently or try to hang us on, as he called them. And he said, never ever change you know, the person that you are. Because, you know, what goes up must come down. You know, I never shut the door on anybody. One of my good friends has just obviously passed away, Ricky Hatton, and he's exactly the same in Manchester. You know, people talk about same personalities because, you know, Ricky was a boxer, I was a footballer, but I've never ever changed the way I am as a person, you know, and, you know, my dad gave me some great advice, gave me some bad ones as well, to be fair, but he, you know, he just said, you know, just be yourself. Yeah, there's a lot of pros and cons to being a professional footballer, but there's loads of downsides to it as well. Yeah. But yeah, so no, I just try to, you know, I go in my local pubs, just, you know, I buy anybody a pint, they can buy me a pint or whatever. But, you know, it's amazing when you do walk into environments or whatever, and they go, oh, I can't believe you're here. And I just, why? You know, I'm no different to you. You know, you'll work on a building site. I've worked on a building site. I've worked in a factory before I was a footballer. So I was very grounded. You know, my mum and dad were working class people. So my mum worked at Bird's Eye. My dad worked at Tetley's. So yeah, it was just yeah, I'm quite proud of the sense that, you know, that I'm very approachable. Some people have different opinions, which you get that, don't you? But do you know, my dad used to say to me, if they don't like you, then don't talk to them. If they don't like you, then, you know. So yeah, there's no grey area really.
And was it your dad, or was there other people who said you've got some skill there? To get you into football. Who was the the person who sort of said, yeah, do you know, Dean, football is for you. Let's help you.
Well, you listen. I my two sons are footballers. My eldest son, you know, he's a very famous footballer now and just signed for Wrexham and played for Glasgow Rangers and Wigan. And Jordan, my youngest lad, 26, he plays part-time. He earns a good living out of part-time football. So I think you're born with it, because I certainly wasn't born with brains. Do you know what I mean? So my mum always used to say your brains was in your feet. But no, I think that when I was growing up as a kid, they used to say as soon as you started walking, you were kicking the football around. Josh and Jordan was exactly the same. So yeah, you encourage it. You know, in my day, it was old school. Now there's academies and scholarships and things like that. So no, they just said once you started kicking the football, and then obviously then you become a little bit different. You're the best player in the school team. You're the best player for Hull boys, Yorkshire boys. So yeah, I think everybody's got the same story really, but I just wanted to play football. You know, every day coming on from school, I'd take a football to school with me and try keeping the ball up in the air as long as I could. But my dad always used, because I was right-footed, my dad always used to say, if I catch you kicking the ball with that right foot, because he always wanted to kick the weakest part of you is your left foot. He says, you won't get any tea if I see you kicking the ball with your left foot, your right foot. So I just kicked the ball against the wall with my left foot, because that was my weak one. And I did that with Josh and Jordan, you know, so I sort of tried to guard that down with the kids, yeah.
And who was your idol as a footballer, you know, when you were a kid?
Paul Gascoigne, yeah, because he reminds me, when I signed for Middlesbrough, Terry Venables obviously was a big influence on Gascoigne's life at Tottenham, and then obviously England, and I got good friends with Paul, and we're sort of similar characters, you know. As Terry Venables said to me when he signed me for Middlesbrough, he says, you remind me of Gascoigne. And I went, well, he's my hero, basically. Bear in mind, he's 2 years older than me, but you know what I mean? And he says, yeah, you remind me of him. He says, he's daft as a brush like you. Do you know? But I used to, do you know the one thing I never, and I always say this, we all work to earn money, of course we do, that's part of life and that's what you live for. But when I played football, I didn't think about the money. My dad always said to me, the better you play, the more goals you score, the more money you'll earn. And I think it's different now with the generation of kids now, because the money's was great when we played in the Premier League, but now if you play in the Premier League, you don't even have to play in the team to be a multi-millionaire now.
Yeah.
So it's a different level, but at the same time, it spared me on because I didn't want to go back to that factory. I didn't want to go back to that building site on £140 a week, you know, 7:30 in the morning in the snow and the rain. So yeah, that spared me on every day. So every day in my training life, when I trained every day, like my school life, I wasn't the cleverest at school, but I never ever missed school. I love school. You know, my mum and dad were very disciplined. And he says, right, you know, if you've got a cough in the morning, my dad would say, well, go cough at school. You know, you're not sitting at home, you know, because you know what kids are like. Yeah. So yeah. So no, I love school, but obviously I love my job as well. As a job in football. So, and it is a job because you train from Monday to Friday every day for 2 or 3 hours, go home, sleep, eat, train again, and you do it. Unfortunate for me, I did it for 20 years.
Yeah. So is there I mean, must be so many memorable games that you've had over the decades. Is there one either before you became professional or after that stands out in your mind?
I think obviously making your debut. You know, I don't remember a lot of things now, but you always remember from years ago, don't you? I can't remember last week, but and I always remember just playing against Queen's Park Rangers on my debut. We got beat 4-1, but that was in Division 1 in them days. They weren't Premier League then, because the Premier League was founded in '92. But it was just making my debut, putting that Hull City shirt on, because I went to Bullfrey Park with my dad when I was 5 years old. And I was just saying to my dad, I'm going to play on there one day. I'm going to play on there one day. And I got the opportunity. So obviously your debut, your first goal, you know, I can't remember when my first goal was, but yeah, you always remember them moments. And then obviously the goal at Wembley, the icing on the cake at the age of 39. And so yeah, that was the pinnacle of it. Obviously my dad was still alive then, so he'd seen everything I'd done. and then he died, when I was 41 year old. So yeah, that was the icing on the cake for me, really.
Yeah, great. So you mentioned your sons, and obviously you had a long and successful career in football, but obviously in recent times, some of the issues you've raised around dementia, but also football as a contributing factor to maybe that has been something you spend a lot of time on today talking about. Tell us a bit about, maybe some of that impact's had on, the advice you give to your sons today, because it's, in some ways, it is a very different type of football today in how it works. But not just football, we've got boxing, there's rugby as well, but still in professional boxing, they don't wear head guards, but they do in the amateurs. Tell us a little bit about that sort of part of your journey as well, and the realization that the sport you love may have contributed to some of your
I just think that now it's changed, because obviously they've stopped children up to 11-year-old heading balls. Then after that, it's like boxing. You're not going to stop people punching people in the face. That's the sport. Unfortunately, rugby players, I go watch Hull FC all the time, and they're smashing each other up. And and obviously Rob Burrows, who obviously died of MMD. They're saying the impact of being, because he was only a little Rob, but he was a strong little lad. You know what I mean? And the guy, is that because the impact he's got MMD and this, that? Well, nobody knows the diagnosis of whatever goes on. But then the thing with mine was that, you're heading footballs. It's not just you're heading footballs on a Saturday afternoon. You're doing it every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're doing drills, practicing heading the ball. And I remember when I was at 15, 16, when I was at RTS, they were hanging a medicine ball, and you had to jump up and head a medicine ball.
Oh, goodness.
To get the power in your neck. But like now, obviously it's changed now. They stop it. I said to Josh, do you do a lot of heading? He said, we'll try doing drills now where we don't head it. You've got to head it on a Saturday. Of course you have to. That's just part of football. So now it's educated in the sense of that these football managers now are aware of it. I know a lot of managers who I know as friends, and I ask them the question, how do you do training now? Because they're played in my era. They was heading footballs. So I said, we try to minimise it, really. But yeah, I just said to the boys, just listen, I just wanted him to treat people like you want to be treated. Be polite, and don't be rude to people. I hate rude people, and the one thing, there's no need for it. Life's hard enough as it is. Where I wouldn't want to. I've just got my first granddaughter, and
congratulations. What's the name?
Adeline. But I wouldn't want to bring a kid into this world now, by the way it's going. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, so no, that's what I've just had. Give advice to my kids, just be polite, treat people how you want to be treated, and you won't go far wrong.
And I mean, obviously, you've had great successes and in your coaching career, and then you went for retirement. So often we hear about sports people, men and women, finding it difficult to cope when they've had success with maybe that not being continued, or even retiring. They find it really difficult as well. You mentioned Ricky. I mean, it's difficult adjustment, isn't it? And what advice do you give on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of football clubs now trying to help young pros, young kids. I even go to speak to schools. It's like, suicide in men probably from, I'm 56 now, and I tried doing something stupid a few years ago, but I've never ever took drugs in my life, and I installed that into my children. But we all like the odd pint and that, and I was a bit of a party animal, but I do it at the right times and things like that. But I think that when you speak to children, and social media is horrible now, horrible.
It's awful. I'm glad my kids didn't have.
Do you know what I mean? I'm glad I didn't have them as a kid. But what I do say to kids is, if you're getting bullied at school, don't be scared to go home and tell your mum or tell your teacher or whatever, because this is nasty. These people are nasty people. They're brave behind the keyboards. And then I said that to the kids, if you've got any problems, obviously I got divorced, so if there's any problems, come to me, come to your mum, whatever you want to do. But football for 20 years, it's like you're not going to work every day. It's like going to work. It's no different to football. You go in the change rooms with 15 lads, 20 lads, take the mickey out of each other, have a bit of banter, go training, do that for 20 years. And I prepared for, obviously I was 40, so my body had gone through it. And I knew I was going to retire 6 months before I was going to retire. But I didn't understand the implications after it. For me, it was a snowball effect, getting divorced, losing my dad. Then obviously I was drinking very heavily. Because I do after dinner speaking, it's a different to this one. So, but I used to drink so I didn't have to think. Because like Ricky, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but he was just a lad like me, goes for a pint with your mates. And he were all right, Dean. He were all right with family. I'm sound, mate. Yeah, sound. Have a few beers, have a laugh and joke. And then when I'm walking through that front door on my own,
Yeah.
it's not a nice place. So I didn't prepare for that. I didn't prepare because I think that what I thought in them days was that that pub that I went into was my changing room. Because Kerry will tell you now, and Gemma knows, my missus, is I hate being on my own. It's just one of them things that my mum and dad got divorced when I was 12, and I got left on my own looking after my mum because my brother was 18. He went on with his girlfriends, blah, blah, blah. So I've got OCD, so I'm always cleaning up because I was always cleaning up as a 12-year-old. So I used to get my kids to make the bed, put the pillows on top, make your bedroom clean because you got to get out of bed to make bed. And so I sort of, it was really hard for me to come out and it was scary because, yourself being in the public eye, you can't do anything. You cannot do anything. Especially with Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I don't do Facebook. My missus runs my Instagram, because I'm not the brightest. I don't do things like that. But no, it's a bad world of social media, but it can be a plus as well, which I get. I get a lot of work through it. I got a lot of, Gemma, because I changed the telephone number. Gemma didn't have my number, but got me on Twitter. And so, yeah, there's a lot of pluses. But for me, coming out of football was fine, but I didn't know what the implications were.
Yeah. And I mean, other people and athletes have said this as well, haven't they? And that, do you think there's more that the governing bodies or the management of sports organisations can do?
I just think that at these football clubs now, that with a lot of suicides that we see now, that if I would love to go around football clubs and sit like this in front of 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids who are going to be rich and famous, the implications afterwards. It's great now. Everything's great now because you don't think about then. Do you know what I mean? So it's all right now. I never thought about, I had enough money to go, well, I don't have to work again. Some lads who don't earn a lot of money, they have to come out of football and get a job. Because they've got wives, children, mortgage, car finance or whatever. So I'd actually then like to say, look, think about the future. Don't think about now. Yes, you're thinking about your football. Yes, you want to be rich and famous. We all do. But sometimes it doesn't work like that, And so I don't know. I couldn't answer that question because I don't know. Josh never says, oh, Dad, somebody's come round and give us a mental health talk about this, that and other. Because at the time, I think it's wrong. Because that change room today at Wrexham and Josh Windus's change room, they've all got a lot of money. So they don't think about the in 10, 15 years' time. How do I know that Josh might get divorced in 10, 15? I hope not. But you just don't know what's around the corner. So, yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that, football and other sports have got a massive resource in people like yourself who've been through it and seen it all and can offer that sort of advice and support, particularly when they're starting out. It's still in football. It's fair to say these young people don't have a rich background often. It's completely new to them.
I just think that now this is where I've learned very, very quickly is that, excuse me, there's especially men, if I'd have said to my teammates, I had an issue, I knew I had an issue, but I never spoke about it because I was scared to. And if I went in the change rooms 10 years ago and said, look, I'm down and depressed, you get ruined. Grow up hair, like that, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And so you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
But I remember playing many, many times and training after training and then having a banter in the change rooms and then getting in my car. And I'm an emotional person anyway. We were talking about the soaps. I cry at Emmerdale, by the way. That's how bad it is. So I'm a very emotional person. But I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand what was going on. So then obviously when I had a bad time and I ended up in Sporting Chance, which was Tony Adams's clinic, which is rehab. I went there for 26 days because I wasn't classed as an alcoholic. I was classed as alcohol dependent. So what that means is when things were going wrong, I went to the pub because I drink because I didn't want to think.
And that's where people were you could do
and
that
that's
with.
where, and then all of a sudden I'm sat having a beer with you.
Mm,
I'm in a mess, but I'm not telling you, and you think I'm all right.
mm,
And then what happens is people end up laughing with you, but then they end up laughing at you.
mm,
So I found that very, very quickly. And then when I went to Sporting Chance, that was the first time it saved my life. For 26 years, the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Speaking to psychotherapists, having one-on-one sessions. I never drank for 85 days. You're training twice a day at Champneys in Portsmouth, where we used to have our lunch and you had to go to the gym. And I remember the 26th day, the last day, and I was coming home, and I said to my counsellor, I went, I'll be okay to go out when I could leave here to go for a drink. He went, no, you're not an alcoholic. Now that you've expressed your opinions and your feelings for 26 days to me, because I know you like the back of your hand now. But just as I walked out, he went, just think of your dad.
mm.
Went, and I broke down. And he went, you'll never be cured. So always think about when you're in a bad place, don't go for a drink. Go to the gym, go for a walk. Do you know, and I say to people, I know a lad now who's going to rehab in 2 weeks and he's not had a drink for 2 weeks and he's telling me that he's all right. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You've got to go there. It's hard, but you've got to go there. Because if you don't, you'll just fall off the wagon again.
Yeah.
And that's all I don't try patronising or throwing on people's throats.
Mm.
You've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself, because if you're not, then things bad will happen.
So I think it was earlier this year, you got a diagnosis for ADHD. How did you feel about going for that diagnosis, and what difference has it made to you thinking about yourself and also what you want to do with that information?
Well, it was just a situation where when I went into the scan machine, which I was a guinea pig, obviously through the PFA, and it just says, look, because you're a well-known person, would you go into this scan machine? Because a lot of footballers are dying through dementia.
Mm.
So the IE is Nobby Stiles, who played for England, won the World Cup with England. On the after dinner circuit, his son's a comedian, and he's campaigning for these football families to try earn money for the families to put your mum and dad in a home, basically.
Mm.
Now, when Nobby Stiles went into a home with dementia, it was costing them 1,700, 1,800 a day to put him in.
Mm.
He had to sell his World Cup medal.
Gosh.
To get him in rehab, to get him in the home. So they said, look, the more footballers go in the scan machine, you know, hopefully you come out there and you'll be all right. So then when I got the results, this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When I got the results 2 years ago, it was a Zoom call, and I went, right, okay, what's the crack? What's going on? And he went, well, you know, you've got mild stage 2. And I went, well, what does that mean? And he went, you've got a shade on your brain. So I went, I've got a brain. I didn't know I had a brain. And because I was trying to make light of it, but then it scared me a little bit. My missus was sat next to me, and I'm like, what does that mean then? What does it mean? He says, you could be like this for 5, 10, 15 years. You don't know. Is there any symptoms? Is there any? He says, probably sometimes you get headaches. Well, I don't get headaches, but I drink plenty of water if I can. It did scare me. But then I kept it quiet because I said, is it going to affect my life? I went, no. Do you know, do I take tablets for it? And they went, no, because it's very mild. It could be like this for a long, long time.
Mm.
And I'm 56 now. So I thought, well, if it's like this in 10 years' time, I don't really care anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's not. So I thought, and my attitude was, I've got to live day to day now. I've got to get on with it. I've got to live day to day. So then a woman came round to the house and did a test on me because of my diagnosis. And I couldn't do this test. I couldn't do a test at school anyway. It made no difference to me. And she was doing these tests, just easy tests, and trying to remember things and that. And I couldn't do it. I started crying because I was getting frustrated.
Yeah.
I was like getting anxious. I was getting, you know, and she was going, calm down. I went, why can't I do it? And then that's when she diagnosed me with ADHD.
Wow.
And I went, oh, great. We've got dementia now, we've got ADHD. But then I never told anybody. And then obviously David Mayo, who played for Manchester United, won the treble with Manchester United. He's on this campaign for football families. And he went on national TV. He says, can I just mention about your diagnosis? And I went, oh yeah, it don't matter now. It's 2 years ago. Yeah, no problem. And it just went viral.
Mm.
And my kids never spoke to me. You know, even my ex-wife spoke to me. That was a plus. And she went, are you all right? And I went, wow, what are you on about? just went, it's all over the national news and all over the papers. And I went, what about? He went, David Mayer's come out and said, and then in the end, I had to go on Twitter and say, look, I was a guinea pig. I wasn't dragged in there because I'm going dual alley. I got dragged in. So then I'm trying to get footballers to go into scan machines.
Yeah.
To help these families. And that's the only reason why I did it, to help somebody. Do you know what I mean? And then everybody's like, they go, oh, you're all right, you're all right. I'm going, yeah. I walk down the street and they go, oh, you're all right. And it's great when you go in pub because I say I forgot my wallet, and then you just I get me drinks. But you've got to laugh and joke about it. I can't take it serious because it'll scare me. So
Has there been any, I mean, it's sort of interesting that because you sort of it was almost like you were sort of outed in a way, sort of it's something that's on the social media, and you know, you just want to do the right thing to encourage others. It's probably been a blessing, but also quite difficult as well.
It's been a blessing that has it or hasn't it? I don't know, because I spoke to the gentleman that he is. Then my missus runs my diary now, so and is it me subconscious thinking like because I've got this illness, or have I forgot that, or am I just lazy? Because I know I'll go to Kerry. Oh, what am I doing Friday? And she'll go on the phone and she'll go right, and I go yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I can remember a goal 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So it does scare you a little bit, but I've just got to get on with it. There's nothing I can do. I'm healthy, mate. You know, I'm health to wealth. And when I do my blogs on Twitter to kids, to parents, to nanas, granddads, whatever, please just speak out. Because, but if Ricky would have said something to somebody, he'd have been here now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to his funeral next week when I come back from golfing trip, and I just wish he'd said something to me. He sent me a pair of sand gloves the next day they found him, and he couldn't have told me that day. But then when I look at it and I think, but I never told anybody. So people you say, well, why didn't you tell anybody then? You're an hypocrite. Do you know what I mean? But you don't know. Once you close that front door, you don't know what goes on in them four walls. Nobody has a clue. Forget about how much money you got. Forget on what car you drive or what house you live in. It's immaterial. It makes nothing. Because people look at us, oh, you've been footballer 20 years, you've got no worries, really. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So you're here with us today, and we've already captured a little bit of all the other things you're doing on lots of different fronts to raise awareness. What's your plans for the rest of this year? What's coming up?
I'm really busy. I'm doing a lot of work with the BDC LinkedIn with a few ex-pros, Martin Afire, Razor Ruddock, Dominic Matteo, Ian Hart. I've just invested into Tigers Removals Company with my mate who I'm playing golf with after this. The one thing that you got to do is got to keep busy. I go to the gym every day when I'm not doing out. I've been to the gym this morning. You've got to, I don't drink during the week, where before I'd be drinking 10 pints a day because I had naught to do. I was bored. And then obviously then the money starts running out, and then you got to, oh, hang on a minute. So my advice to everybody that I speak to, and you know, if you've got problems, go tell somebody, please. You know, go see a doctor. Because I'm not a doctor. When I do my things on Twitter, they go, what do I do, Dean? I'm not a doctor. You know, all I say is go tell somebody. Please tell somebody. Tell your wife. But if you dare tell your wife, tell your mate's wife or tell your mate. Do you know what I mean? And I go to my mum's in the morning and she go like, what's up with you? I might have a bad day. We all have bad days, don't we? And she go, you make sure you tell me. And I go, yeah, I'm all right. You know what I mean? But I don't throw it down people's throats. The key is it's good to talk, like you said in your speech. It's good to talk because it saves someone's life. It might save your own life as well. So my therapy as well, because I've got a lot of followers on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. When I do mental health talks, that's helping me as well. I don't know who I'm talking to. But then when they come back and they go, do you know what, Dean? I was laying in bed this morning and I felt sorry for myself. But I've got out of bed. I've made my bed. I put my pillows on top and I've got out for a walk. So we have a Walking's Brilliant charity with all the ex-footballers, me, Mark Crosley and all the ex-Premier League players. And we've raised over 150,000 quid. So if anybody in the room for the NHS, if anybody needs anything that you need for the hospital, come to me. I can provide some whatever as a budget. So like I'll go to them and say like I got some spinning bikes for somebody, defibs, you know, things like that, and they say, can you help us? I go to the lads, I say, look, I need 2 or 3 grand to get this, and they just sanction it off and they just do it.
There'll be several people in this room making note of that.
Yeah,
I can tell you that much, Dean. There, yeah. I can.
My charity will be going, Dean, we're skipping
That woman over there, sat there, she's grinning from ear to ear.
I'll try my best, honestly.
Michelle over there.
No,
as well.
like you say, we do, and you know the money that we earn, and obviously, if you ever Google it, it's Walking's brilliant, but if you Google it, it's called Watch. So Mark Crosley was an ex-teammate of mine. He had problems after football. Goalkeeper, Nottingham Forest, very famous. He got divorced, and basically went through a bad time. So he started walking, and then I was doing my videos, so I started talking. So then he says, Dino, why don't we set up a charity? I went, what are you on about? I said, I'm clever enough to do that. He went, we'll do walking and talking, charity, heights. So we ended up walking up Ben Nevis and things like that, and Skyfield Pikes, and raising money. And it just went viral. Went, wow, the money that was coming in was incredible. So it's called Watch, Walking and Talking Charity Heights. So you can Google it, you look at it, and you see what we've done for people, what charities we provide with people, you know, wheelchairs, things like that. I got a minibus for who's the lad in Hull who had the head injury? Paul, yeah. Paul for Brains, is it? That's correct, isn't it? So what we did, so he came to me and he says, Dean, he said, we help, because my mate who had drinking Beatree, his daughter had a head injury at the Manchester bombing, I think it was. And he says, oh, could you help us with a minibus? So what I did was I went to our charity, I went to the lads and I said, look, can we help these lads? So we paid finance on the bus for 3 years, which was around about 3 or 4 or 5 grand. So instead of them paying the finance on the minibus to take these head injuries to places like this or wherever. So for 3 years, we helped them, but we couldn't do it for longer than 3 years. I'd have done it for Super Bowl. But so that's what we try to do. You know, as you say, I try, as you say, if you came up to me and said, Dean, could you help me with this? I'd go back to the charity, you know, because Gemma's going to send me all these pictures. I'll put them on my social media, you know, on my Instagram. I'll put it on the Walking's Brilliant. They'll know what I'm here today. And if we can help as many people as we can, we will do.
Dean, it's been a pleasure having you with us today. I said we like to have an inspiring person at the start of our events. And
well, to be fair, I haven't cried, so you've done well. I haven't cried, no. So you've done well.
But and you know, honestly, I wish you all the best. I mean, small things can make a big difference, and just that talking is a start. And I wish you well in everything you do. I also wish you well in. We were sharing how we both have an ambition to be an extra in a soap opera or a film. We are available, aren't we?
We are. Yeah.
For that, that's on our bucket list. So let's see how that goes. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope we can make sure this relationship with you continues with Humber.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we are going to have Michelle Moran, our Chief Exec, take us through a review of the year. Thank you.
Well, follow that. Thank you, Dean, and thank you everybody for being here. What a fantastic, inspirational start to the actual AMM. And we always start our board meetings off with either a service user presentation and chat or a staff, and I think that really sets up this afternoon. So thank you. I'm Michelle Moran, the Chief Executive of the organisation. It gives me great pleasure just to have a bit of a run through around last year. I'm talking about last year, but it's this year for today, just to confuse us, because I'm talking about 24, 25. Up to March. I'll talk a little bit about the future in a short while. But I'm going to give you a little bit around our strategy, because I think last year when I stood here, I said I'd give you a bit of an update about where we were up to in relationship to our strategic direction. And I'll give you some highlights and some lowlights, because we're on a journey and we're on a journey together. So let's make further ado. Let's meet the board. Most of the board you will have seen around this afternoon, and I thank everybody in relationship to the work that they do and the governors. We're a team and we're a community team to support and to develop the organisational strategy and the organisational intent. So our vision, mission, values and strategy. So our vision is what the future and what we are working towards. The mission is how we're making a difference. If we're not making a difference, then we need to ask ourselves, why not? And our values are the ones that guide us throughout that journey, caring, learning and growing together. And as Caroline said, this strategy is a lived document, and you will see as we go through, because it has been written and co-produced by our staff and our service users, and that will continue. We may have to refresh it a little bit with the long-term plan, but we will do that in partnership. One of the other things, and one of my probably highlights of the year, is developing and continuing to develop our behavioural framework, being Humber. This is who we are. It is our architecture. It is how we want to behave. And Dean mentioned it actually, I want to care and look after ourselves in the way that we want to be looked after. And in keeping with everything else, this strategy, the behavioural framework was written by staff. So it underpins the community that we work within. So what are our services? So I think the best way to describe our services, because as you've seen a sample this afternoon, I thank everybody that's participated, and that's only a real sample, is everything but acute services. Now we provide into the acute sector through our emergency department and going on to some wards, but we don't actually directly provide acute. Everything else that we do, and that's supported by our fantastic corporate colleagues who make a difference every single day, along with our clinical services. I'm actually not trying to speed up because we've got Abba here who's doing a fantastic job of signing. So thanks, Abba. she taps on the day, but it means I'm going too fast. I've got a habit of speaking too quickly. So our trust. Now, this is a very busy slide, so apologies for this. They will all be available to see, and all this detail is in our annual report. Once it's been laid before Parliament, it will be around and about, so do have a look at that. Some really impressive numbers here. 90 volunteers. We've had the volunteers stand this afternoon. We could not do without our volunteers. From the very small things that they do, signing people in, getting people to the right place, to the drivers, absolutely fantastic. We employ more than 3,500 staff, but those staff saw 205,133 patients last year. And just let you ponder on that, that's huge. And we admitted 1,554 patients. So well done for that. We continue to be an award-winning trust, and that's important because we are working in very challenging situations. And the demand is growing. We've got obviously public expectation, but it's really good to showcase our work within those challenging circumstances, not just for our staff to actually celebrate what they are doing, but also to give our patients and service users confidence that they can come into our services. But it's also great for recruitment. So we've had Health Service Journal Patient Safety Awards. In fact, the emergency department got nominated for 2. Fran Ashton won the well-deserved Social Worker of the Year, Nursing Times Awards, Digital Awards, the list goes on. And I think we've all got things to do, but it just shows that we are continuing to develop our services. So our strategy, it's the 3rd year of our strategy that was co-produced. We are on a journey, I will constantly say that, and I make no apologies for that because we do things exceptionally well and there's more that we need to do. But we're honest and we learn together and we build on what we've already done. What's quite interesting is actually our strategy aligns with the long-term plan and the 3 aims that Caroline referred to earlier and I'll touch on later. So just some very quick examples. So one of our objectives, we'll go through the 6 objectives, is innovating for quality and patient safety. So we've updated some of our estates to make it more accessible for patients, following feedback and also safer. We've developed aromatherapy suites, again, feedback, but also to make things safer and a better quality. We've got a new on-call system for GP access. And we did a lot of work on disability this year across all its spectrums. So we made our services a lot more accessible for physical disabilities. That's on top of all the governance work that we do with triangulating our incidents, our complaints, and I sign off all complaints and our compliments. So enhancing prevention, wellbeing and recovery. Top marks go to our breastfeeding team and our health visitors within Hull and getting the gold award for UNICEF. But it's a huge undertaking. But what we are doing is giving children and young people that early start in life that is so important, and especially in some of our really deprived areas, which helps our work on health inequalities. We've done an I Thrive conference, we've done sleep weeks, but also we're doing a lot more work with education and schools because neurodiversity continues to be our #1 challenge. Alliances and fostering innovation, again, are important and again, a key objective of ours. We've led the Provider Collaborative, and this is where all the mental health trusts come together within Humber and North Yorkshire, which is the area that we work within. And that's really important because it's about how we can work collectively together with the finances and the premises that we've got to benefit quality and safety for patients. So to lead that, I think, is really important. We've had some new cadets graduate, which is fantastic. And we've got lots of things in relationship to research, which you will have seen on the stands, but a couple of things we're really interested in is the loneliness research and the collaboration with Hull University. And obviously, importantly, health inequalities, which I've mentioned. We can't do any of our health inequalities work in isolation. We have to do that with communities. So that's why we have to foster innovation, partnerships and alliances. So promoting people, communities and social value. I'm not going to say too much about this because the chair, Caroline, will be launching our social values report shortly. But we're really proud of the work that we do around the patch in relationship to communities and social values, the added things that we don't get paid for, they're not part of our contract, but we really feel strongly about. And whether that's showcasing, whether that's raising money for our fantastic charity, or whether it's working with our Youth Action Group that continues to go from strength to strength, is vital. I will touch on a little bit about our workforce because obviously, what is the most important thing that we do? Patient care is central to everything that we do, but we have to support our staff in that objective. So we make no bones for doing as much as we possibly can to support our staff across the organisation. I'll touch on that briefly later. But one of our objectives is to develop an effective and empowered workforce. So we're proud to celebrate the success of our staff. And we do lots of different things, too many here, both from a development point of view to develop them in their skills and their careers as they wish, but also to support them in health and well-being, whether it's be a cost of living process or whether it be just access to different services across. And we will continue to do that. We've done a lot of work this year, for example, in menopause, because that was something that came out of staff. And as I mentioned, the behavioural framework. So optimising an efficient and sustainable organisation. This isn't just about finance, which we'll touch on later, but it's about how do we work within the green agenda? How do we do the zero net ambitions? And we work collectively together for that. And we are progressing quite well with our green plan. I think this time last year I said we were planting some trees as well, and they've gone from strength to strength. And we'll continue to invest. So I've mentioned partnerships, and this slide is very busy, but we do collaborate at the heart of our strategy. We don't see ourselves as an organisation that's a bit of an island, but we also commission services. So we've got a commissioning arm of the organisation that commissions services from secure services, children and young people, and adult eating disorders. And as you'll see from the screen, we've got an edit team, which was really successful last year, which is around the preventative agenda, how we keep people out of hospital and look after them in the community. So supporting staff, another very busy slide. But basically, there are 9 key people promises that every year our staff get asked through a staff survey. And it is so important that we get this feedback, both positive and negative, to see how we're doing, and we touch base with those that work with us. This year, we've got a 56% completion rate, which is fantastic. We need to do better, but it was one of the top. But I'm very pleased to say that across all the people promises, and some of them from engagement to flexibility to recognition and reward, we surpassed our previous results, and we were one of the highest in the benchmark. That doesn't mean we've relaxed. We will continue to develop that, and work through what those figures are telling us and what they're saying. But remember where we came from. Remember I said about a journey. We were right at the bottom of the pack in relationship to everything, in relationship to staff survey. To see the results last year was extremely rewarding, but there's more to do. Don't worry, the slides will be available. I am flicking through them and just hopefully picking out things. What is also absolutely vital is listening, but hearing and really acting on what our patients and staff are saying, but what our service users are saying. So important. So we've got lots of ways of doing that. This time last year, we launched our patient strategy, our patient and care strategy, and that goes from strength to strength. We've got 32 experts by experience looking after 28 projects. We've got a first caring event that we held, but we also do a lot of face-to-face alongside virtual forums as well, trying to make it accessible. We mentioned the co-production stamp last year. We've had 36 pieces of work this year. I've been through the co-production stamp, and believe me, Amanda's looking at me. It's very difficult to get a co-production stamp, and she's nodding at that. So it's really impressive that 36 people, 36 projects have got that. And then the friends and family test. Our live dashboard was launched in April. I think I alluded to that last year. So what about our friends and family test? Excuse me. Just over 90% of people said they were satisfied with our services. 93, just over percentage, found our staff friendly and helpful. And 90% said that they were involved as much as they needed to be. Room for improvement, as my team would probably say, I would say. If I said 99.8, I'd still say the room for improvement. And that was over 16,500 tests. Now, we've also got to do more, but it gives us a good guide because we can drill into that, and it's a live dashboard. But we do use this data. We triangulate it then with complaints, compliments, incidents, just to see what's happening around our 82 bases. So very, very quickly moving on. Long-term plan, I will come back to that. So I'll just skip over that for now. So challenges and achievements. I've mentioned a lot of them, so I will skip through these slides. So lots of cost pressures within our forensic services that we've worked through. We have aligned our services, and you'll hear me use the word pathways. Excuse me, because it's about developing pathways for our flow. It's about how we work with patients coming into our services, having our services and exiting our services. The national process is to free up beds, but we've continued to do that with our work as well. And I've mentioned our emergency department at Humber Suite. We developed that, which is why if somebody goes into an emergency department, they immediately go into a purpose-built facility designed by service users to look after their needs. And that is probably one of the first in the country. Fantastic. Now, I said here last year that neurodiversity was one of our challenges, and I'm afraid I'm going to say it again this year. That doesn't mean that we've not done a lot of work on neurodiversity, but we have seen a significant number of increases constantly within all the areas that are on the screen now. But we are working closely with our partners, which I alluded to earlier on, the voluntary sector, independent sector, and looking at digital solutions. And we'll continue to do transformational plans. Now, our waiting lists have reduced, and it's one of the things the board are absolutely forensically examine, and our governors do as well, and rightly so. And they have reduced, but we still need to do more. And they're probably one of the lowest in the region, if not in the country, but we still need to do more. So the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service has completely redesigned itself over the last 12 months, and will continue to do that in Hull and East Riding. And that was including insight from 40 staff and patients. The clear, it is a process. We can go through that, but it's a methodology. Apologies for using it a couple of times. But that really helps us have a look at how we can utilise our services better. And obviously, we're managing tackling the health inequalities as part of that work, and leading that inclusion agenda. And I mentioned education because it's so important for us to continue to work with education. Environment and estates. I've mentioned a bit about the capital work that we'll continue to do and the green plan. But we also have developed some of our waiting areas. And one of the things that I think is fantastic, and a really great visit quite a while ago now, though, was at Walker Street through Health Stars. And we've really made that waiting room really accessible. So that will help that health inequalities, but also help alleviate anxieties for children and people when they're attending appointments. And we will continue to invest in our staff rest areas, commonly known as wobble rooms. And it's great to have those. It's just staff just to get a little bit of time when things are particularly stressful. Technology, we'll continue to invest and develop technology to improve care. It is one of the long-term plan key aims, but we've been looking at technology for a while. And we've got Interweave, which is a front end that links a lot of different pathways and a lot of in this area. We host it on behalf of England, and 190,000 records are accessed every month, which is an amazing fact. So we'll continue to do that. I've mentioned the charity a few times, and I make no excuses for that, because this time last year I mentioned about bringing it in-house, and we did that. And I think it's gone from strength to strength. It's been tough, because obviously it's tough out there in relationship to charities, but we have had some real success, and we've done the Fitzwilliam Ward at Malton, and we'll continue to reconnect that charity work with our strategy going forward. So I hope I've mentioned a little bit around what we're doing with our strategy. I hope I've been through a little bit around our challenges, but also our achievements and how we're meeting those. All these slides will be available, because I've skipped through a lot because of time. And obviously everything will be in the annual report. There'll also be some time for questions at the end. But I just want to show you a quick film just about our year that puts into context some of the things I've just spoken about, called Reasons to Celebrate 25. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I say this every year, but I always think I get the tough gig here. You hear a great story from Dean Wenders, and he's, really quite emotional, really, and very powerful. Michelle tells us how great it is. We then see the fantastic video with the 25 achievements, and then I stand up here and can talk to you about financing the NHS, which, at the best of times, can be a dry subject, shall we say. So anyhow, by means of introduction, I'm everybody. Hopefully most of you in the room will know me. I'm the Finance Director at the Trust, and I think this is probably the 8th time I've had the privilege of presenting the annual, I'm not presenting the annual account, actually, Michelle says I'm presenting the financial review of the year, because our accounts at the moment haven't completed their audit, and that's primarily linked to the fact that we have some staff in the organisation who run the local government pension scheme, so we have to wait for the audit of local government to get our final audit and accounts. So that will probably come to the council time of us supposed to do this again in January. So the annual account policy is green, but I'm presenting the financial review of the year. So 2024-25, I sit here today and I think that was a really successful year for this trust financially on many fronts. So first of all, we completed our accounts on a going concern basis, and what that means is so that will probably create the trust in terms of things like plans, efficiencies, cash, etc., historical performance, future plans. And that demonstrates that we have a high level of confidence that as an organisation we have the right resources to continue to deliver services for the foreseeable future on many fronts. We ended the year with £80 million cash in the bank. I'm always proud of our cash. 18 million for an organisation of our size is significant. Cash is starting to become a worry across the NHS given the underlying financial position that's out there. I think it was only probably 7-8 years ago in front of the wall after we had about 6 or 7 in the bank for to achieve that is helpful, and we ended the year with the vision for our ambitions to capital in the future and always the opportunity. Again, as a trust for the 8th year running, we met our financial control closely with the last year where we deliver a break-even financial position. Again, that is really good and demonstrates the strength of our performance, and I thank everybody in the trust. This is just finance for everybody who contributes to the planning, the hard work we delivered in the year. We invested just over just under 12.5 million in digital for the state last year. Michelle's touched on a lot of that in her presentation. I'll cover a little bit later on financial position. In the year, we continue with our reduction strategy and we delivered around 2 million on efficiency savings. An important line there is recovery. So I'm very proud that our efficiency programs are always looking at recovery savings and what that does in digital really strong position. Michelle could have planned around in her presentation financial years, not doing things wrong with currently which we then have to repeat. Again, something that I think as a trust we should be proud of. Finally, we paid our suppliers efficiency savings. So big focus on cash is something that will manage the cash by not paying the suppliers. We paid 94% of our suppliers on time, which is something with a national focus on the planning years ago and something we continue to focus on. Not doing things wrong with currently which we then have to repeat. Again, something that I think is no bullets on this slide, just 3 points I'd like to make in terms of the environment that we're operating in this financial year. Firstly, we continue under a block funding arrangement. So what that means is as a trust we get a block allocation and we're expected to deliver our services within that funding envelope. Michelle made a very good point. We have a real pressure on neurodiversity in the organisation. We're very good. We demonstrate our productivity in that area. But what we can't do is like a corner shop. Deliver more and more and more and expect to be firstly, we can continue within the financial block that's set for us. So what that means is we had the target to break even like in all organisations last year, and as I said on the previous slide, we delivered that, and it was the 3rd year of our specialist provider collaborative, which we are the lead for, and that's something that, as an accountant, it's something I'm personally proud of. I see some of the achievements we've made through that provider collaborative in those 3 ways streams of adult secure, children and adolescent mental health services and adult eating disorders. And just the number of patients we bring back, we've created that and improved the quality of care. Some headline figures from that financial year. Apologies for an accounting category, and I'm not 78 million, and that's about a 20 million increase from the previous years. Represents that as an organisation. And just the number of patients we bring back, earning £278 million of income. Some headline figures, £282 million of expenditure. Again, roughly a £20 million increase from the previous year. The accountants or the wannabe accountants in the room will look at that and say, and that's up to 20. It cost you 292, but you've got 178 users, got 4 million deficit in your accounting. You'd be absolutely right. That deficit is a technical accounting treatment. And without boring you into doing anything to lease property and amortisation of leases. And finally, the one that I'm most proud of expenditure is as a trust, we have no borrowing. £20 million. So it was about 4 years ago, we paid off all our debt and got rid of all our borrowing. And what that really means for an organisation such as ourselves is in the future, if the FT freedom's going to die and we get the opportunity to borrow, if we go to the bank, we're in a very strong position for our financial gearing because we have no debt at this point in time. So again, something we shouldn't be all proud of. And finally, I mentioned we get about 280 million pounds money into the trust. So where does that 4 years ago? So roughly, all our debt, most of it comes from our local ICB, so under North Yorkshire ICB, and that's for our mental health services, activities, riding, physical health services, health services, bank in North Yorkshire and York, and that's about 155 million. We get 70 million from NHS England, and that's linked primarily to the specialist provider. Relatively low mentioned, we get 20 million from local authority, and that is linked primarily to our 0-19 contract, and then we get 30 million from other bits of the ICB. Some of that is North Yorkshire education, that's why trading programmes, some of that is health funding, pension contributions, some of it's linked to our estate. So, and that's about the reason why this is quite important for us as an organisation is when something planning. Staff are our biggest asset, staff are our biggest investment, and our pay bill last year was roughly £180 million. The second biggest area of spend for the organisation is purchase of healthcare, and that represents these lead provider arrangements we now have in place, and that was around £80 million. And then the other 20, the biggest element of that is our estate. You know, Michelle mentioned in her slides, we operate from 80 sites. Those 80 sites, you know, have capital, have PDC. We also have to rent, rates, etc. And then we spend roughly 5 million as an organisation on supplies and services. So we touched on capital, and I don't want to repeat what Michelle has said, but last year we spent the best part of 12.4 million on capital. On digital infrastructure, it was just over 2 million. The bulk of that was the migration of our electronic patient record, which, that's not wood, is it? Hand on heart, I think, has been a great success, and you know, bumps in the carpet as there always is, but the feedback I've had from staff is it's night and day to what we were using before. You know, we mentioned earlier that we're the host for the Interweave and the Yorkshire Humber Care Record. Again, that's really good because that puts us in a good position to draw down national capital when it becomes available. And we invested a further 2 million in the care record, and we invested 8 million in our estate. And Rob and Dan are in the room. I'm not going to read the capital programme out, but some of the areas that were quite notable last year is roughly £2 million on our green agenda. You know, I think we've got a fabric-first approach to our estate. So what we're trying to do as an accountant, not an estate surveyor, is almost wrap a building to make it firmly efficient, and then we'll look at what we're putting into that building rather than do the former and watch it all leak out. We invested again in our secure estate, so our refurbishment works at the Humber Centre continues, and some of the work we did across at Pine View is really, for me, powerful to see when you walk around the building. And we did further work across the rest of our inpatient estate and our compliance works, and it was the second year of our door alarm project, which again was a huge investment for the trust. So, final slide from me, you'll be pleased to know, is looking forward to 25-26. Probably should have put looking ahead, if I'm brutally honest, because looking forward, I'm not particularly looking forward to it at the moment. When you look, you know, you'll have all read in the press and seen what's coming out there. So we have a break-even plan for the current financial year. Everybody in the country has a break-even plan for the current financial year now, but that followed a financial reset earlier this year, and it was all over the HSJ and in the press where plans were submitted. There was 6.6 billion of deficit. You know, there was a huge ask from the centre of changing the leadership team at NHS England, and plans were resubmitted. I can say to you as your finance director, we were already break-even before that financial reset, so we weren't affected by it. But I think what we're starting to see when we look ahead is organisations are under financial pressure, and there's a level of risk out there at the moment. And why wouldn't there be? Because you can't eliminate 6.6 billion of spend nationally, through a plan resubmission. We're now in the world of provider segmentation, so that has come out. Finance features heavily in provider segmentation. So segmentation puts an organisation between 1 and 4, 1 and 2 being good, 3 and 4 being not so good, and there's a special category 5, which are those that are not very good at all. Any organisation that has financial deficit or deficit support funding, of which we don't, can only get to segment 3. And that's very important as we think of Foundation Trust reaccreditation and ambition for the future with integrated health organisations and everything else. So keeping a strong grip on our finances is very important for the organisation. We're in a good place to do it, but we mustn't lose that foresight and grip. The centre is moving towards medium-term financial planning, I am pleased to say. So a draft planning framework is out at the moment. We're working our way through that. Phase 1 is due to conclude this month. There's no epiphanies in there, if I'm brutally honest, but as we move towards the end of December, we're expecting further guidance templates, and what that will do is set us up, I'm not going to say like FT reaccreditation or FT accreditation, but we'll have a longer term financial plan, and that will be ultimately stress tested by the region and not the ICB. And finally, we've got some ambitious capital plans for this year and future years. So this year, fingers crossed, we will start on work at Granville Court. I mean, I'm joking. The question I was asked last year is what you're most looking forward to for 24-25, and it was starting Granville Court. As with all things estates-wise, it's taken longer than we intended, but we have got a contractor ready to put a spade in the ground. We've just got a few issues to iron out, but we are actually in the first phase of our inpatient redesign project. So obviously, as with many things, that's really scoping, planning and designing, and then 12 months further on, we may have a spade in the ground. But when I joined this trust 9 years ago, the first thing the previous chief exec said to me was, he described the inpatient ambition. So to be here 9 years and to see the start of that journey is something, I'm really looking forward to, I have to say. I'm not sure Rob and Dan are when I look at them because they go grey by the day. And I think that is it for me. So I just want to say thank you for listening. And I'm going to pass it over to Tony now, who's going to give you a view from the governors.
Hello everyone, I'm Tony Douglas and I'm the lead governor of this trust. I'm here today to present the lead governor report to you, and before I do, well, first thing I'd like to say is I think it's about time we got rid of the scary photo. It's the second year, so hopefully by next year we'll have changed it. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the governors for their continued commitment to the trust over the last 12 months. I would also like to thank you all for attending today's annual members meeting. And my presentation introduces our current Council of Governors and highlights some of the activities we've been involved in this year. Okay, it works. So this slide is, I won't go through all the names, but these are our elected public governors. And these are elected by members for the trust. And they cover a range of areas around it, from Hull to the East Riding, through to Scarborough and Rydale. We've got one covering the rest of England, which includes other areas as well. So they're our elected governors. And we've got service users and carer governors. And as I said, this is Anthony Hoof. And this is Marilyn Foster, a service user. I think Marilyn, is online. I should also say welcome to everyone who's hopefully joined us online today, because this has been streamed. And just a word to say, I think Marilyn's online, and just to say thank you. Marilyn was the lead governor before me, and really just to thank her for her time and service and commitment to that role. We've also got our elected staff governors. We've got some new governors here as well, which I'll go through in a moment. So, and these are, the governors, again, elected by staff, but to represent all the staff of the trust as well. And then we have our appointed governors. And this slide shows all our current appointed governors. These governors represent the organisations that appointed them. And at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank those governors that stood during April 2024 to March 25. And these are Gary Foster, Ruth Marsden, Jonathan Henderson, Councillor David Tucker, Patrick Hargreaves and Dominic Kelly. Governors have a duty to represent the views of our members and the public regarding the trust service and the plans. And in the case of appointed governors, the organisations that appointed them. Some may be here today, or again, may have joined us online. Now, we have some new governors as well, and on this next slide, this gives you the details and names of governors who've been elected or appointed, be it from public governors to elected staff governors and also appointed governor. I've said that once. And we've got a few governors here. Would you like to just make yourselves known to everyone here today, please? Any governors who are here? Now, these are staff and public governors, and they're here if you want to speak to them, have any questions or any issues you want to raise, please by all means do. Right, I want to just talk now about key areas of focus. This slide highlights how we engage our members and hold the trust and non-executive directors to account for the performance of the board and the appointments that the Council of Governors have approved this year. So we engage our membership through conversations we have with the people that we meet regarding the work of the Trust. We then share the feedback we've received with the Trust through the meetings we attend and the conversations we have. We also consider how representative our membership is, as this helps us to determine whether we should be inviting people from any underrepresented backgrounds or areas to become members and hopefully to become future governors. Last year's review revealed that our public membership is broadly representative of the populations we provide services to, but obviously we can always do more. And at the end of March 2025, we had 7,604 members made up of public and staff members. So that's a lot. It's good that we have so many members involved. Another key duty of the governors is to ensure that our non-exec directors effectively challenge the other board members on all matters regarding the work of the Trust. On a practical level, we do this by inviting non-executive directors to attend our Council of Governor meetings, where they report on their work and answer governor questions. We can also attend the board meetings in public, where we observe the discussion firsthand. And over the year, non-executive directors have given presentations to us regarding the work of the Trust committees and answered questions we've had about these. So, I think this one, that. No, so, and then we have the membership plan. The membership plan is, excuse me, I've got the wrong way around. Our membership plan outlines how we will recruit new members with an interest in healthcare and how we will obtain and share views from the members and the public with the Trust. We regularly review the plan and our progress against it at our engaging with members group meetings, which is chaired by me. And we're always keen to hear the views of members. Our constitution. This year, we agreed a small change to the Trust's constitution regarding the approval of fixing of the trustee. So the constitution, it's a very long, detailed document about the responsibilities and role of the Trust, including the role of the executive, of the non-executive directors, and also governors. Now, the change in the Constitution it's complemented changes made to the Trust's standing orders and scheme of delegation. The current version of the Constitution can be found on the Trust's website. And we have elections coming for governors. So this is really just to highlight that this is happening. Our governor elections take place every year, and we encourage anyone with an interest in healthcare to nominate themselves to become a governor of the constituency in which they live, should we have a vacancy in the constituency. And we will be having a vacancy in Hull, and we'll shortly have a vacancy in the Rest of England constituency. And this Rest of England constituency, it enables people that don't live in Hull, East Riding of Yorkshire and Whitby and Rydale area to nominate themselves to become a governor. And so you might want to consider becoming a governor for any number of reasons, including you want to give back and make a positive contribution to your local NHS trust. That's the reason why I stood for election as a governor. You want to work closely with the board of your local trust. You want to help make your local NHS services better by telling the trust what local people think about the services and plans and how they might make them better. And this is a voluntary role. It's not an operational role in nature, so governors don't manage staff or tell them what to do. Instead, they give feedback to the trust about what members and local people are saying about its plans and services. It is a great way to find out what's happening. You know, I've worked in the NHS in various roles over a number of years, and I'm still learning so much about what's happening. And I think that is everything from me. So, thank you. With that.
Thanks, Turner. Whoops. I do get little scripts out, but then, as my colleagues will know, I very rarely follow them. But thank you for doing that. They're really good. But no, seriously, thank you. And obviously, we've heard a little bit around the strategy, the achievements. We've heard a bit about the money, and obviously the really important role that the governors play. So it's been remiss of us not to have a look at the year ahead. As Pete alluded to, Pete's taken a couple of my slides away, which is absolutely fine. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. I haven't spent a lot of time, and I make no apologies for that, talking a bit about the system and the wider system, because this is about Humber NHS Teaching Trust. It's about us, but we need to obviously bear that in mind, and we will be very influential. I spend a lot of time with the Integrated Care Board and with the national teams as well, but this is focusing a bit on us. So looking ahead, we've mentioned the long-term plan and the 3 aims within the long-term plan, and it was published a couple of months ago. I think it's really important and really good stuff in the long-term plan, which puts patients and service users at the heart of what they do and around moving things into the community, be that through neighbourhoods or integrated health organisations. But the devil is in the detail. And we need to see that detail and we need to work with it. But we're not standing still. We are looking at our strategy, and the board has spent a lot of time over the last few weeks really digesting that and really making it ours and owning that. So a big part of that is a word I don't really like to use, but I have to use it, is productivity. But to me, productivity is about transformation. It's not about doing more with less. Yes, the money is the money, but it's about how can we maximise, for the benefits of our patients and our staff, the resources that we have that Pete alluded to. And we have to maintain that financial balance. It gives us the freedoms and the influence to make changes. So it's really important. What we're going to do is we're linking in our productivity work with our transformation work, with our quality improvement work. So that our quality improvement, which is vital to what we do, transforms our services, which helps make them more productive. And what I mean about that is better access, better flow, better pathways built around patients. And that will then help the national segmentation piece. As Pete alluded to, 1 to 4, we're in a good position being 2, but it's not good enough. We need to be 1. And we will get there collectively together as a community. And with that work, we will do that. And part of that segmentation is another word to throw out there, is provider capability. And this is an assessment of the organisation. And we've been doing a lot of this through the insightful work, the insightful board work that we've been doing. But those two go together and then allows us to look at the potential for Foundation Trust reaccreditation, which will then give us some freedoms to develop the system and develop the organisation further. So it all starts to link together. So responding to the long-term plan, we are going to align our current plans and strategies to that. We've started that work already, and I alluded to the fact that we will look at, I went through all our objectives, we will look and see where they sit, but there's actually a lot of synergies. We were ahead of the game in relationship to integration, services built around people. We will continue to focus on that productivity, as I've said, and about optimising our workforce, but actually doing it through that Proud programme and developing it with them and through development processes. I've mentioned about segmentation too, and we will focus around that sustainability and going forward. We have to do as an organisation. But it will be tough because we're working in a system that is challenged, and we will work with that system and support that system. And I'm on the Integrated Care Board, for example, and I'll continue to work with them on that. So just a little bit of an area of focus, like I did before, about each of our areas and what they will be focusing on. This is by no means the only things that they'll be focusing on. More detail is in the annual reports and various reports that are around. So our children and learning disability services, neurodiversity. I've spoke at length about that, and I make no apologies for that. We'll continue to really work on our waiting list and our access in relationship to neurodiversity. Inspire, which we've talked about, which is our inpatient unit, we're going to develop that into being a more intensive mental health service for young people. Granville Court will happen hopefully this year. I know we'll be sat here next year saying it won't happen, looking at our esteemed estates colleagues. There's been a few bumps in the road, but I think we've flattened it now. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. I've got the reading glasses on, I can't see you anywhere. And we'll continue to remodel the children and young people's pathway that I spoke about earlier on. One thing I didn't touch on so much last time was around access to mental health in crisis as well. We still need to do some work on that. We've got lots of services out there around mental health in crisis. We just need to get a lot better on that. Children and learning disability services. We've mentioned our work with education, but we'll continue across all our areas to work with our voluntary sector, our wider partnerships as well. But we will continue to develop our hubs, etc. I've just had a thing about crack on with it, so I'll have to speed up a little bit. When I speed up, my throat goes dry. Community and primary care areas of focus. Continuing the work in North Yorkshire, we've got some fantastic community services around in Scarborough and Malton, and we will need to continue to work with that and really specialise in frailty and build our virtual wards. They've done so much this year, but more to do. Addictions, we've spoken about that. It was great listening to Dean, and we've got a fantastic addiction services. And again, we need to take that across into the next level. And Whitby, I think we all agree when we visited Whitby, there's more capacity in Whitby that's there that we can do. So we're working quite closely with our colleagues in the acute sector to see what else we can actually develop in relationship to Whitby. One of the things that we are doing, which we always were going to do, is transfer the remaining primary care services that we have, the GP services, back into primary care. And that's because we were only ever looking after them to develop them, to get them to a stage where we needed them to pass them back into that primary care setting, which is part of the national plan and is key to the Integrated Care Board as well. So that will conclude this year. Our secure services will be looking to continue to develop that capital piece, enhance their own internal neurodiversity pathways, some work on that clinical leadership team. Really exciting for me is employing Humber Centre and Pineview patients as experts by experience, and I really look forward to seeing how that continues. And then finally, mental health, which I've touched on a little bit already. We will continue to look at our vision, which I think we've had for a while now. We've actually demolished our old HQ site for our inpatient build, and we'll continue, especially if we get more Foundation Trust freedoms, it allows us a lot more access to capital. And we've identified that the first part of that build will be our female unit, which will help us do the perinatal work that we want to do and we aspire to do as well. We'll also continue our plans to develop a six-bedded female psychiatric high dependency unit, alongside developing our current psychiatric intensive care area. And then we'll continue to do the fantastic work on our electronic patient record. It has been a real highlight for having that implemented this year. We need to do the optimisation now as well. And the culture of care work will progress. Finally, but by no means any different, we'll work on our inclusion and diversity work that we've continued and developed the Respect programme that we did with staff, but we'll also underpin all that our health and equalities work, which I touched on earlier on. We're trying to look at the data that we've got in relationship to did not attend, the areas, the access. We've got a strategy now, and we'll continue to focus on that, but we can't do that on our own. We need to do that in growing partnership with the local authority alongside the other agencies that I've spoken about. So it's going to be a busy year. We've got a lot of challenges ahead, but I think that with the team, the community, with our frameworks that we've got, being humble, we can deliver those together. And I thank the governors and the board for their continued support as we go forward into this year. And I'll pass over, that leads us into a really seamless passing over to our chair to talk about our social values report.
Thanks very much, Michelle. This is the social values report for 24 to 25, and please take a copy as you leave, and we'll be making them available across the trust and to our partner organisations as well. So what is the social values report about? Well, obviously today you've heard a lot about the services we provide, that we are directly funded for by NHS organisations. And I suppose we could just, as an organisation, sit back and say, that's what we do. That's what we do. We have these services for people. They come into us. They go out from our buildings. We see them online. We see them in person. That's what we do. But it's not what we're about. What we are also about is recognising that across those, 82 sites, across the geography that we cover, we're also part of a much wider community. And that's what social value is about. And what we do through this report is to have a look at just how that is working in reality. I mean, one of the biggest social value contributions we provide is about being an employer. As an organisation, an anchor organisation, we are absolutely committed to doing what we can to make sure that within the geography that we are located, we can provide the best opportunities possible, both clinical and non-clinical, for young people or for people who've started on one job in their life but it hasn't worked out, to think about coming to us. And I just catch Jackie with the corner of my eye, Jackie White, one of our governors, our appointed governor for Hull University, our partnerships with Hull and with others to contribute to the next generation of staff coming through is so vitally important to what we do. And for all those communities that we represent, for some of those particularly young people who may not think that actually joining the health service is for them. Maybe they don't have anyone in their family who works in the health service. And you heard already today about the cadet programme, but also the apprenticeship programmes that we run not only for those wanting to come into our organisation, but also sometimes for our staff as well, who want to change their career projection and do something different. So actually putting money into the local economy by providing jobs for people to have money in their pockets to actually use in their local economy is a fundamental aspect of what I think big organisations in the public and private sector should be about. But it's more than that, and you'll see so many examples in this new report. And so I'll start with some numbers. I'm not going to overwhelm you, but I hope these numbers are meaningful. 5,501 hours of volunteering, £152,000 raised through charitable funding. Over 133,000 people reached through our small grant scheme. This is really important, and there'll be more details in the report. Lots of small organisations, particularly in the voluntary sector, who we work with in different ways because we can add something to their endeavours. And it's a two-way street. Because by doing that, we're doing something to help the communities in which we serve, but also it enables them to do their part as well. And that's partnership, and that's what it's all about. 4,000 staff now using a single digital patient record. And again, that is all about actually putting more value, using technology in a way we can help our patients and service users. How often, do we hear in feedback? In our organisation, I hear it elsewhere as well, in other public services. Why am I having to tell the same story all the time? Why is it I'm having to tell 6 different people in one organisation what my experience has been, what is happening to me? We are absolutely committed to keeping both that personal human contribution to our relationships with our patients and service users, but we want to harness these tools to make it easier for them, but also that our staff are not also always spending time through the old analogue way or the paper way of trying to piece together information, which isn't what they want to do. They want to get down and hit the ground running to help the people that we serve. 26 young people, as I said, graduating from our NHS cadet programme, but actually more than that, we've got a lot of our services actually working with schools as well, sharing what we do. Again, I've always believed, there's a reason why children of doctors become doctors, children of lawyers become lawyers, and so forth. Is because actually we're not harnessing the potential of all those people who can't see themselves in those jobs because they've got nobody who can tell them about it. Getting into schools early, sharing that from different professional backgrounds is so key to have a seeing is believing. They can see themselves in those jobs if we just take some of the mystique away from it. These aren't just statistics, they tell a story about impact, about lives changed and about the way we use our role to deliver healthcare, but to create that wider value for the communities we serve. Our hybrid neurodiversity assessment project, it was flashed up on one of the slides earlier, created with families, and the OWL Therapy Centre, which won national recognition and has reduced waiting times for children seeking autism assessments. Our enhanced programme has supported people living with opioid dependency, with 92% of those involved reporting a positive impact on our lives. And our research teams, and a shout out to all those people who work within that division of our organisation, but also to all the volunteers. I can see a few faces here today, and I'm sure there's more online, who volunteer for these projects, going out and recruiting others. So now we have led on 53 national studies, including groundbreaking artificial intelligence work on dementia diagnosis. We've also invested in compassion and inclusion. New bereavement booklets and carers cards are supporting families at the hardest of times. Our Culture of Care project on Swale Ward is reshaping our mental health services by giving patients and staff an equal voice. And we're continuing to do that in our secure services with the equality and diversity work, making sure that every voice is heard and valued. Behind every number is a person, a family, a community, and that's what makes these achievements so powerful. They show that social value isn't just an add-on, it isn't just something extra, it's got to be at the heart of how we deliver our care, how we work with each other, and how we build a healthier future for our region. So my thanks to everyone who's played a part in these results, our staff, our volunteers, our partners, and the people who use our services and their families. And together, you are all the reason we continue to grow as not just a provider of care, but I think as a force for good. Thank you very much. Get your copy. So now we're going to move to the sofas again, and we're going to take some questions. So can I invite Tony, Michelle up onto the sofa with us? So obviously we've got people watching today's events online, and of course we've got all of you in the room. So I've got some questions here which I'm going to try and go through as many as possible, and also we'll take some questions from the audience as well. And I think Gemma or someone, yes, Gemma is there, has got a microphone that she will be coming around the audience. So let me just take the first one out of this lovely little box. So question. What if, this is from Paddy Hall, and it's what if anything might trigger services and resources moving from acute into the community? How might the Integrated Care Board commissioning policy under development support this? Michelle?
Well, what a question to start with, Paddy. Thanks for that. I don't know, I could spend the rest of the afternoon on that. Because it's actually something, to be fair, that we've been talking about for a long time, to be honest, about how we actually get services more within the community from the acute sector. I'm not going to mention it from a financial point of view, but I think the new policies that are coming out from the centre around the Integrated Care Board being the strategic commissioner will help drive that. I think some of the financial pressures will also help drive it, but I think there is certainly an appetite now to actually make that shift, be it either from a people's point of view or from a financial point of view or from a general resource issue. And I think we can see that with our virtual wards. We can see that in a lot of work that we've tried to do in relationship to that prevention that we've done ourselves. I mentioned earlier on about our eating disorder. So I think there is an appetite, really. I think we just need to stick with it, because what we do tend to do is lose a bit of patience with it and then go back into the acute sector. But I think there's also some conversations that we need to have with the general public about how those pathways and those flows work. So I think it's work in progress, but I can see now with the development of the long-term plan and the digital, particularly the digital resource, that we can actually start to do it a bit easier and not be as reliant on hospital inpatient beds. I think that's what it's talking about. Is that all right, Paddy? I can't see you where you are. Well, that's fine. Is that all right?
Can we get a mic to you, Paddy?
Hi, thank you for that. One of the things I think is a real difficulty is that the trusts, most of the acute trusts are in the bottom 13 in the country, and most of them are in financial deficit. The ICB is in financial deficit. It has to write a commissioning paper for December to say how money will go out. So all of those organisations will have a strong case for saying, not do we want to get rid of any resources, but we haven't got enough to do the job we're supposed to. The commissioning is likely to ask every provider organisation to identify its core job. And the core jobs are underfunded at the moment, so they're going to be incredibly reluctant to give any money away. The only route I can see is if the ICB has got the courage to say X%, 10, 15% or whatever of its budget is to fund change, is to fund services moving from one place to another. No hospital is going to wish to give away money. It probably wishes to give away quite a lot of services that are unproductive and stop beds and so on. But unless there's actually some money tied in to the process of change, rather than funding carrying on trying to do what you're doing with a tight budget, nothing will move because everybody will dig their heels in.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I said about moving the resources as well, Paddy. So yeah, you're right. But the financial envelope will be tough next year as well. But that, you're absolutely right. And that's the conversations that the Integrated Care Board's having, and particularly working with neighbourhoods as well. It's a good point.
Okay, can I follow that? Thank you. So the next question is, with all the change and scrutiny on the NHS, same as it ever was, I would say, how will Humber support staff's health and well-being?
Well, hopefully I've answered a lot of that already this afternoon, because I think we do a lot. We've got Your Leave Plus, we've got all sorts, and I'm going to hand over to Karen, who's our Executive Director of People and Organisational Development, to answer rather than just having our voices. But I think our offer is really impressive, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the CEO. I think what we've got feedback from staff is that we do try and go that extra mile. As I said, we've done a lot from menopause because we listen to staff, and we do things not just from a cost of living point of view, but access to more musculoskeletal services, so health and wellbeing agenda. We've just put some more resource into our psychological services as well, because our happy staff equal really good outcomes for patients. But that's just a few headlines, but obviously I'm going to pass over to Karen.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everyone. Michelle's just picked it up.
Come and sit on the sofa for a second,
thank
Karen.
Thank you. And I think Michelle just picked all of that up there for me, to be honest. But as Michelle just said, you know, we're a trust that genuinely wants to invest in the well-being of our staff. And we take that very, very seriously. And I think I would link that to valuing your feedback as well, because actually you are the ones as our staff and as well led by our patients. We need to shape that health and wellbeing agenda together. We've had significant impact with the creation of a health and wellbeing team, and we actually delivered about 700 physical health MOTs last year. And that is quite phenomenal, because actually what the team identified was that they were able to signpost and triage into GP services people that had underlying health conditions that they weren't aware about. So actually, in many respects, we've saved a couple of lives amongst our staff. But all of that said, our investment has gone into, you know, those physical health activities, team building, Your Leave, Your Health and Wellbeing Plus particularly, and Your Flex Plus, all really great contributors to wellness at work. But we need to do more, and we need to hear from yourselves as part of your feedback to us. So staff surveys coming, please use it, but also feed into us via your various forums about what more that we can do and what we can consider and what's important to you from a wellbeing perspective, because actually you're the ones that need to lead the way in terms of telling us what's important to you and what will keep you well.
Thanks. That's Karen. Thanks very much, Karen. Is there a question from the audience? If you want to put your hand up. Yes, Jean, nice to see you.
I've always got a question. This one relates to the work that I am involved in with the Trust, which is supporting recruitment. And that means using my interviewing skills. Now, I don't know how pressured you are in finding the bods you want, when you want them, and how you want them. Could you answer that question for me, please?
I'm going to pass back over to Karen this time to start, and then I might come in at the end. How's that?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really phenomenal question. And I think you're quite right there, you know, in terms of getting our reach out into the world and being attractive to people is very, very important, because we want the right people in the right jobs. We want the people with the right values. So actually, there's something here about going back to what we've just talked about from a health and wellbeing perspective. In order to reach the right people, our offer needs to be right, doesn't it? We need to be attractive to people in the local community. So actually, there is something about understanding where our gaps are, where we might struggle to recruit, particularly from particular professional groups, creating partnerships and alliances, whether that's with educational bodies or, you know, other local organisations, but actually genuinely leading the way as an employer of choice. Then there's the practical things, isn't there, in terms of the day-to-day, how we administer recruitment and make our offer and our advertising quite polished. But actually, it's the reality of being a great employer and how we, you know, expand that offer out into our communities to make us attractive. But there's that other piece, isn't there, about talent pipelines, working with, you know, higher education, further education colleges. We've got an extensive apprenticeship programme. We've just taken on a new cohort of T-level students, because what we realise is that actually we need to work within the communities, draw people into healthcare roles at younger ages. You know, so there's something here about promotion, but also education too.
Thanks, Karen.
I think there's another thing, isn't it, Jean, that you do, because you sit on interview panels, don't you, for the organisation. And one of the things as a trust we're keen to do, this is part of the volunteering offer, I suppose, is that where we think it's really important to have, I suppose, lay people who can be part of that panel process as well, we can provide training and support to do just that. It's another sort of, I suppose, having, you know, different people on. I sit on consultant interviews. I'm not a clinician. I hope I add a bit of value to them. I've got all the experts around me, but sometimes you need other people with a different set of eyes on these things. So again, to those in the audience or those online, get in touch with our volunteer team, because there's lots of different things you can do, and I'm sure we can find something that fits your interests. But yeah, Jean, thanks for all the work you do on that front.
Thank you. What you might not know is that I also work supporting the university in finding appropriate students, e.g. nurses. That's a fairly new development for me, but it isn't about me. What I'm trying to say, and I don't think I've had the question answered, is do you have a recruitment problem? E.g., can you get people to do that?
I was just about to answer that. Just take the mic back off the chair. Actually, at the moment, we have pockets where we've got hard-to-fill posts, which we've got a whole group of both staff and managers looking at. But actually, across the patch, we are actually doing relatively well compared to other organisations in relationship to recruitment. And I think that's a combination of the things that people have just alluded to, the outcome of the staff survey, which is so important because usually staff look at a couple of things. What's the staff survey like? What's the CQC report like? And now, no doubt, they'll look at segmentation. So there are pockets that we know we've got to work harder at. But actually, across all our areas, we do actually very well when we compare ourselves to other organisations. So I'm hoping I've not said that out loud too soon. But I think that's part of because of the offer we've got, part of the reputation that we've got, and part of the community that we're building. So really great question.
Yeah, sorry if you didn't hear that fully, Jean. That is really important as well. And what's always, from a board perspective, some of the things we ask about is, you know, when people leave the organisation, why are they leaving the organisation? Sometimes it's just the fact that they want to progress in their career and we just haven't got that opportunity at that time. But then the reverse of that is the people who come into our organisation who used to work here and have come back again. So it's really interesting to know, you know, actually where our staff are coming from and their journey, because I think for us, people talk about, you know, the NHS and what it can do. I think it's fair to say, Michelle, isn't it, that we believe working with our partners across Humber and North Yorkshire, the ICB could do a lot more to develop that sort of talent pool across all the different providers, and also those who aren't currently working for provider who might want to be, to make sure we can work together to actually have the best across the system that we work in. Another question from, yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm Isabel, one of Tony's fellow governors. Thank you, Tony, for the overview of the governors last year. Just because it would be great to have a full complement of governors, and if there's any members here or online that are thinking they might want to stand, could you give a bit more detail of some of the particular activities that we've been involved in as governors, just to flesh out the picture of what it's like day to day being a governor? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think, as I mentioned, I think the governor role is that it's about, for me and many other governors, it's about giving back and bringing that experience. I think we have 24 public staff appointed and service governors, and they come with a wide range of experience and knowledge around it. And how they can be involved is in a variety of ways. And first and foremost, our focus is on patients and service users and the services and what the trust is doing to provide these services and how they can be improved around it. So that's our main focus. And we can do this in a variety of ways. We have a Council of Governors meeting 4 times a year where we meet with the non-executive directors and some members of the executive team to learn about what's happening in the trust in a variety of ways, be it from a finance point of view, from a performance point of view. And it's our chance to ask questions, because one of the key roles of governors is to hold the non-executive directors to account and to question the non-exec directors about what questions are they asking around it. And it's about us being provided with that assurance. So there's a Council of Governors, but there's a whole range of other meetings we can be involved in, from the patient care experience groups through to appointment and terms and conditions meetings, where governors are involved in, like, for example, agreements about appointments of non-executive directors. We're involved in interviews. Only this week we've been involved in stakeholder face-to-face interviews for candidates for non-executive director roles. And we'll be doing the same again in October for the audit chair, the non-executive director role. We have the opportunity to undertake place visits where we can go out to services and find out about services and look at particular aspects around it. We have development sessions where we can find out about, in more detail, about some of the not just the services in general, but the operational aspects of it. And it's that ability that gives that opportunity to ask further questions and learn about what is happening. So there are multiple ways in which a governor can be involved. And I've got to say personally, I think it can be very rewarding. So thanks for the question.
Thanks, Isabel. Thanks, Tony. Anybody else in the audience like to ask a question? I think I've got time for one more, yeah? Goodness me, well, I'm going to take one out of my box then, in that case. 3, 2, 1, last chance. Okay, right. Oh, right. Okay, we were talking about this at board yesterday. Obviously, one of the things we discussed at board yesterday was our winter planning, which seems to be honest, every year they talk in the NHS about the winter plan. I think we're planning all the time, aren't we? I mean, it's literally all year. It's full alert. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. However, this one we did touch upon at the board about preparing for winter and concerns about flu.
Okay, well, there's a double thing. So we've got two directors that are looking at me. One obviously is our flu champion, which is Karen, and obviously Lynn, our Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Chief Exec. Suffice to say that we are obsessed about both. And yes, we always plan winter. And generally we have the trial day on our winter plan on the hottest day of the year. And we did again this year, so we start planning it that soon. And we do some stress testing with our colleagues as well. And obviously flu is very dear to our heart. We would have actually been having the flu vaccinations available today, but we're not allowed to start until the 1st of October. So we would have been in presence here. But I'm going to very briefly, for headlines, I'll start with Lynn about the winter plan, if that's okay. Let's come up, Lynn.
Thank you. And I think, Michelle, you've made some really key points there. We do plan for winter, and I did say it at board yesterday, actually, it never stops. But what we obviously do is learn as well. So we thoroughly review our winter plan every year, learn the lessons, see where we can improve our response. So we definitely did that last year. Some of you may well be aware that one of the issues that caused some of the challenges last winter was the prevalence of winter viruses, not just flu actually, but flu was very much part of that picture. So we've looked to that, as you would expect us to do, in terms of our plan overall, and prepared our services for the impact. And what's really important about that is that resulted last year in high staff absence across the whole system. So obviously we want our staff to be healthy, and we talked about that earlier as well. So protecting our staff in terms of vaccination is why it's so key. But that staff absence obviously led to pressures. And obviously when there's high staff absence, the staff that are at work are under ever-increasing pressure as well, so we don't want that to happen this winter. Obviously, we want our public and our patients to have confidence in the services this winter as well, so all of the plans are predicated on achieving that. And where we've got particular work that we can do, we don't want to have reduced staffing or have to limit the number of beds that we've got because we're protecting our patients from viruses. So hence why the flu vaccine programme for this year, always really important, but really prevalent given what we've learned as a system, including us as a trust, from last winter as well. So shall I pass to Karen?
Thank you, and I'll just stand here this time. Yes, and in terms of the plans for delivering the flu programme, so we've got our comms team in the room, and I will thank them actually for working alongside the people team in order to develop the campaign this year, which is Flu Stops With You. And it's a really powerful campaign that's really getting people, our staff particularly, to think about the impact of them getting flu and how that will impact others. So themselves and their ability to be able to attend work, but how that might impact our service users, how that might impact their families, their children, their friends, people that they're in close proximity to. And I think that what we are working with at the moment is trying to dispel those myths, those things that we know, certain things about sort of being worried about needles, for instance, trying to overcome some of those challenges and worries that our staff might have that might be preventing them from having the flu vaccine. So the flu vaccine is in the building, and Michelle's absolutely right. We can't jab anyone until the 1st of October, but we will be launching that programme at Inspire on the 2nd of October as part of a launch event. However, we'll be holding some centralised campaigns for our staff here at the Trust headquarters. But actually this year we are adopting a more strategic and targeted approach to where we go in terms of that influence we have within our workforce. So we've looked at areas that had low uptake of flu vaccines last year, but maybe higher prevalence of flu-related absence. And our occupational health team as well, huge thank you, and we have got some people in the room here today, have worked up their rounds in terms of where they're going to go and be very visible with the flu vaccine so that we can capture those people and deliver those vaccines. We do have a target to increase by 5% on last year, so we're throwing everything at that because it's very important. Ultimately, it's about patient care. So we are throwing everything at that. And I would say that, as again, our executive team are very visible in terms of all of us. Kwame here is our medical director, Lynn, Sarah, who's not here today, unfortunately, at the forefront of that campaign.
Thank you. And just to add, we will have league tables this year because healthcare staff love a league table. They're actually very, very competitive. I mean, actually, I didn't mention the segmentation's a league table as well. But we will, so yes. And actually, we were the best trust in the area last year. We've got a 5% target on top of that, which is great. But we've got peer auditors and a fantastic occupational health service. So I'm sure we'll be, we'll do well.
So that's the end of the question. Just to say as well, the board, we all get fully vaccinated. I am absolutely, a vaccinating person, obsessive on this sort of thing. So we all willingly do that, not just protect ourselves, but to protect others too. So thank you. That's the end of this questioning session. I'm going to hand over to Michelle, who's going to close our annual general meeting and annual members meeting. Thanks to everyone on the sofas.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for your questions.
I think we can remain sitting, can't we? I just wanted to say thank you for everybody that's participated this afternoon. Thank you for all the stalls when we arrived. They were fantastic, as always, and just a flavour of the various services that we do. But what a breadth of knowledge that people have across the organisation. It was such a pleasure to go around, and I hope that you do take something away with you, more than a pen, but just a little bit around some of the services that we do. Thank you to everybody that's online as well for taking the time to dial in as well. And please, as I say, things will be available online. Our annual report will be available. I really do want to thank the communication team, particularly Gemma and others that have made today possible. For Rachel, who writes a fantastic script that I completely ignore every year, but will to continue to do that. But all of them, for James that's done the IT, and for the IT guys over there, and for me having a panic when I came in around a screen down at the bottom. But everybody that makes today absolutely possible. But I would like a big round of applause to Abby, who's been our signer, who's done an absolutely fantastic job. And let's say, please have a safe journey home. Please, as I say, keep dialing into the board meetings. They are online, they are live. That you can come along to those, you can come along to the governors' meetings as well. We are a community together, and we can only improve together. We can build on the successes that we've had as a community and as a team, but we can only do that in partnership with you. So keep the feedback coming, and thank you and safe journey.